Hello, Yamini. How are you?
I'm doing great, Pete, now that I'm about to talk to you.
You're so nice. Hey, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another one of our sessions here at Camp Modern Sales, the MSP Virtual Summit. We are in for a pretty amazing treat today with the CEO of HubSpot, Yamini Rangan. Yamini, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to get into some introductions here in 2 seconds. But for folks who don't know me, my name is Pete Kazanjy. I'm one of the founders of Atrium. We make data-driven sales management software that helps sales organizations and managers use data to improve rep performance. I'm also one of the founders of Modern Sales Pros as well. So that's a little bit on me. But I'm particularly excited to have Yamini here today, the CEO of HubSpot. But I think she'll tell. I'm really excited for us to talk about a lot of the things that are going on at HubSpot, because I think that our audience here will really appreciate how much innovation in making the revenue world go round HubSpot is doing right now. But people may not be familiar with Yamini's background. So Yamini, maybe you can give us a little bit of a background on how you came to HubSpot and the things that you worked on before that, because it's all revenue all the time, but people may not be aware of that. So can you give us a little bit of a background there?
Yeah, it's all revenue all the time is actually a pretty
All the
good thing.
time.
And Pete, you and I were just talking about this, but you and I connected when you were about to start this whole thing up. So, I mean,
Hmm.
it was a while ago, and I'm
Long
so
time ago in a galaxy far, far away, right?
exactly, but I'm like super thrilled to see how this community has kind of really grown, and you've done an amazing job of shepherding it.
Hmm.
Background, I'll keep it very quick. I grew up in India. I went to undergrad in engineering. I started as an engineer. And honestly, I've kind of wondered, was that the right choice? It was the choice I made at that time to be an engineer. And I came to this country to do masters in computer engineering, and I worked in engineering for a few years. And as I did that, I recognized I love technology, but I really like talking about technology, not kind of like coding in technology. And so I did what every lost engineer does, which is I went to business school. And I went to
Well
business
described.
school. Exactly. I kind of was like postponed what I really want to do by going to business school. And I went to Berkeley, and it was really amazing. And I graduated from business school, and I had told the story of like, I like talking about technology. That means I should be in marketing within technology. And so I landed my first job with the OG CRM company, Siebel Systems. Many of you may have heard of
Wow.
Siebel. Many of
That
you
is that
not.
is the OG. Yeah, that is the OG.
And that was more than a couple of decades ago. And when I joined them, they said, well, we like you, but here's a job in sales. And I kind of like landed in sales, and I was like trying to explain to my Indian parents that I was now in sales. They were kind of disappointed because my is the doctor in the family, and I could never catch up there. But anyway, I joined in sales. And I tell you this story because they both have had like huge influences. Being an engineer
Mhm,
and then being in the sales organization early in my career have both
mhm.
have huge influences on my entire career. Being an
Yeah,
engineer kind of gives you first principles thinking. How do you take a
systems
problem?
thinking.
How do you like apply data to the problem? How do you
Mhm.
use systems thinking to kind of really dissect the problem and put away your emotions and really get to the core of the problem? And I've used that, throughout my career, and I'm sure Pete will talk about that. And then the second part of it, I spent almost a decade at Siebel and SAP in the sales organization, and I
Mhm.
was in front of customers every single day, sometimes listening to what felt like the same challenges, but in different customer sites, and I would
Right.
get it all mixed up. It would feel like deja vu, but again, it really helped with empathizing
Mhm.
the very difficult choices that customers typically make in terms of technology, pattern
Mhm.
matching on how they make the decisions, and the fact that you got to have customer empathy, and you got to put yourself in the shoes of the customer in order to really be in this business. And so I think both of those choices kind of had like a really profound, just impact in terms of my career. Then, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about this, I made a personal choice to switch from being in the sales organization to going into sales strategy and operations. And I
Yep.
know many of the community members here are in ops. I know it. I've been in that role, and it was a personal choice, because I had two kids under 3, and I didn't want to be a road warrior. So
Yep.
again, if you are a woman leader in sales and you're thinking about like, hey, how do I make this all work? For me, it turned out to be, and again, really, really impactful choice to go into strategy and operations, because I could use the data driven first principles thinking from engineering, but the customer pattern matching and empathy that I got from being in sales and sales operations became kind of my career for a while. And I did that at Workday as well as Dropbox before kind of
Yep.
taking on larger roles within the go-to-market organizations, and ended up at Dropbox leading marketing, sales, customer success, and revenue operations. And I got a call from HubSpot now about 4 years ago. It was for a chief customer officer role. And I've always
Hmm.
said, well, what you do has to match really innately with the company's DNA for you to be successful. And when I
Hmm.
saw, HubSpot, who I've always followed, I've tracked for many, many years, they're super customer centric, called me for that role. I had to
Yep.
take the role, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the what I remember when you went over to HubSpot, and I was like, I I remember remarking to myself because we had done a couple of customer development conversations when I was doing initial research for Atrium, and I thought to myself like, man, it is a master stroke to have somebody with a operations and sales strategy background, um, like coming and working at this organization whose future everyone thinks about HubSpot, at least historically, as being a marketing organization, right? Like,
Yes,
the like creators of inbound marketing, right? Like usable usable marketing automation systems, right? Delightful user experience, et cetera, et cetera. But that's actually HubSpot like 10 years ago,
that's
right?
correct.
And one of the things, like, we use HubSpot here at Atrium for our marketing automation, and I just like every time I'm in it, I'm just like, oh, this is so delightful to use. It feels like a video game. Um, but but I think
Love
a really important thing that people need to appreciate is that, like, and I think the audience really understands this as being many revenue operations people, is that marketing is just part of it, right? Like, marketing generates the leads, and then it comes over here into sales land. We work out of the opportunity, and then it comes over here, like, ideally close wins, and then it comes over here to customer success land. And so, I think HubSpot has a desire to be a uniform revenue platform for organizations, and has invested in that over time. And I think a lot of organizations, or a lot of people, may not be familiar with that growth, because they think about HubSpot as being a marketing automation company. And then the other thing too is, like, even if people are aware of the CRM, they may think about it as like, yeah, that thing is really great for smaller organizations. And I
correct.
remember when I had this, I was I was actually fundraising. It was like 3 years ago, and one of the VCs that I was working with had me talk to the former head of sales operations at HubSpot,
Yeah,
a gentleman named Channing, I think. And I remember him
love
telling
Channing.
me this story about how HubSpot had moved the entire sales organization, and at the time I think it was like 600 sellers, off of Salesforce onto HubSpot CRM. And I was struck by that, because it just seemed like such a of substantial commitment to making the CRM, like, as somebody who runs a software company, that's a great way of making sure that you're going to put your money where your mouth is, and your engineering
Exactly.
resources where your mouth is to have a very big customer who happens to be your internal organization now responsible. So I think what I would love to talk about a little bit would be, your priorities as as a CEO, first when you joined as a chief customer officer and as a CEO, specifically and particularly around helping HubSpot kind of move up market? Because at this point, every startup I talk to is using HubSpot. Unfortunately, for all the other kind of SMB CRMs that were out there at this point, like HubSpot has run away with the market. But I also talk to organizations that have like 25, 50, 100 sellers, and they're on HubSpot as well. So
Yep.
maybe you can kind of share a little bit about like those priorities with us.
Oh, absolutely. And I think like you captured it really well. What maybe, we've been in this business for 17 years. In fact, we just
It's
celebrated
crazy.
our 17th birthday as a company and obviously got started with inbound and
Yep.
driving that methodology. But what is less known, unless you're really looking at us, is that we're in the middle of two really big transformations. The first transformation is going from a marketing automation app, to a CRM platform.
Yep.
And that transformation is well underway. We now have gone from marketing automation to sales, to service, to CMS, which is content,
Mm-hmm.
to operations, which is reporting and automation, and a full on CRM platform. And
Yep.
that transformation is well underway. And certainly, HubSpot, we are a 7,000 person company. We run today on HubSpot, but the market that we really aim to serve is really scaling companies that need the customer data in one place. We want to
Yep.
provide the easiest to use solution with the most powerful features that will allow a scaling company to grow seamlessly. That's our mission. We think about it every single day, and we're in that process. The second kind of transformation, which you alluded to already, Pete, is we started, in the S portion of SMB, and we've kind of gone from the S portion to the S and M portion of
Yep.
SMB,
Yep.
up to a 2,000 person company.
Mm-hmm.
And that transformation is also well underway. So when I joined as the chief customer officer about 3.5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
first job was really to unify what we call the flywheel organization. And for us, the flywheel organization is marketing, sales, customer success, and revenue operations. We wanted to bring all of these teams together
Yep.
internally at HubSpot, put the customer and customer's experience at the center, and make sure that each of these teams were oriented customer, in rather than function out in terms
Mm-hmm.
of their strategies. And so that was like number one priority. How do we bring all of these teams, but more importantly, have a clear North Star of solving for the customer and orient the teams to be focused on the customer. The second priority was really getting this upmarket transformation going.
Yeah.
And when I got to HubSpot, like I said, I started my career, in the CRM company,
You were
and
probably you were probably a little bit of a CRM snob when you showed up. You were
yeah,
probably like, I don't know, guys.
yeah, and look, I've had a CRM in my background for the better part of 2 decades, right? Either user and an executive sponsor of CRM or a seller, of CRM, one way or the other. And what struck me 3.5 years ago was the product was ready. The market just didn't know it. The product was
Yeah.
absolutely ready in terms of having, sales and having the CRM platform and the ability to really make it easy for scaling customers to leverage not just marketing, but sales and operations and so on. And so, one of the questions I ask myself, Pete, is, if the product is ready, then, do you know who the persona is? Do you know how you package solutions to the persona? Do you have the right messaging for that persona? And do you have the right sales motion for the persona?
Yeah.
That's the set of questions that you got to ask yourselves. And when I dug around and we were asking these questions, product was ready. We had the right packaging. We knew the sales and sales operations persona that we needed to serve. And then, our sales motion needed to be activated. And so we've been on this path. And like you said, we're now 7,000 person company, more than 1,000 person sales organization. We're running on HubSpot, but we have routinely customers that have hundreds of sales seats that are running on HubSpot. And I
Yep.
think we're just getting started. There's a lot more for us to do.
Yeah, it's because don't be mad at me, but right now Atrium only supports Salesforce as a CRM because we started
I am mad at
up
you.
market. Oh man, um, and because Atrium helps sales organizations and specifically frontline managers, measure, manage, and improve rep performance through data, and so we get these. It's funny, like we have very happy customers, and people move around. Like literally, I get blown up on LinkedIn constantly. Like, hey, I landed in a new spot. Can I talk to a rep? Um, and but more and more, I'm getting people saying like, hey, I landed here. We have 30 sellers or what have you. But do you guys? I can't remember. Do you guys support HubSpot, Pete? And I'm like, oh man, no, not yet. But
Pete,
um,
can't
I
have
know, I
that.
know, I
We
know,
don't
I
need to
know.
talk to.
I know. Well, we're going to talk about ecosystem here in a second, but I think the point is that like I've been doing this at Atrium for like 5 years now, and 5 years ago that was less the case, right? People would say, okay, I'm on, we're gonna be using, like, so first it was like we're using Pipedrive, or we're using Close.io, or we're using Insightly, or we're using HubSpot CRM, or whatever, these like sub 10, sub 20 person sales organizations. Then those other kind of like those other little CRMs, and those S CRMs kind of like went away, bought by Vista or what have you. But then what's fascinating is to see these organizations continue to grow
Yep.
with HubSpot, and then they don't move off you know, until they're at 50, or until they're at 100 reps or 200 reps,
Yes.
or what have you. And if you think about where oftentimes organizations would say, hey, I need more flexibility, I need to move off, it was things like customization and
Yep.
automation and what have you, which is something that you guys really invested in heavily. I forget, is it called the Revenue Hub or the RevOps Hub? I'm trying to remember what
Ops
the
Hub. Ops
Ops
Hub.
Hub, Ops
And
Hub.
and I
Yeah.
will I will correct you, Pete, that we now have routinely customers with multiple hundreds
Oh,
of
totally.
sales feet. So it's not
Yeah.
hundreds. So they don't need to graduate. Then we're scaling way beyond that. So
Exactly. And I think that the thing that historically the perception was like, customization, what have you, guys shipped the Ops Hub around with like, all sorts of fun, like, oh, you need your workflow rules, we got your workflow rules. Oh, you need your custom objects. Oh, we got your custom objects, right? All the sort of stuff that all of us like sales nerds and all the the trailblazers out there are kind of familiar with now live over in HubSpot. And I think the other thing though that that the CRM incumbents have done a good job of is ecosystem
yep.
enablement, and because like you can't be all singing, all dancing. There's always going to be crazy entrepreneurs like coming up with like new solutions, like call recording or this or that, or like data driven sales management software. And so the ability to read off of a CRM and then write back into it in a platform fashion is something that when Salesforce came up with the App Exchange, whatever it was, like practically 20 years ago,
That's right.
was very innovative. And I know that you guys have invested very heavily in making sure that that HubSpot has a very muscular ecosystem. And I think that was like a pretty big topic at Inbound last time. So maybe you can kind of speak on that a little bit about how you guys have invested in enabling an ecosystem of solutions that sits around the kind of like the CRM revenue platform that you guys have built.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, our mission is to help our customers grow. And as we do that, we want to be the number one CRM platform for scaling companies. We stated this mission, we've been at it on the mission. Everybody within the organization is really tuned to becoming that CRM platform for scaling companies. And over the years, we've really talked about what does that really mean? Well, on one hand, it means that we need to be the system of engagement, not just for marketing, but for sales, for service, for operations people, and for content creators. That's one part of it. The other part of it, the word platform, means that we need to be the system of record for all of your customer data. And the customer data can certainly be within HubSpot. The customer data can also be across your a company, and if you're a scaling company, we do understand that you have data across the company. And so
Mhm.
for us, being that system of record and being the platform was just a stated strategic objective that we've been at for many years. As you mentioned, we now have over 1,400 integrations with other applications.
Just a
So
couple.
I mean, think of any one of these,
Mhm.
applications that you have. You want to be able to bring that data in. You want to have like a holistic view of customer data. We
Yep.
enable that. And the question is, why? Why do we do that? Beyond the stated strategy of CRM platform, what does it matter? Well, it matters because we really focus on solving for the customers. And when customers have a connected, seamless, way to access their own customer data, then they get much more value out of any of their investments. And so from a customer perspective, bringing data in and having a holistic place that they can view their entire customer journey makes a lot of sense. From our perspective, we find that when customers have 5 or more integrations, and sometimes when they have 10 plus integrations with other applications, they
Mhm.
retain at just an incredibly different level. And so for
Yeah, I would
us,
imagine.
our focus has been, how do we make it simple, how do we make it easy, and how do we become that system of record for customer information within scaling companies.
Yeah, and I think I mean, the reality is that there's always going to be new solutions coming out that like weren't there like a year ago. Like I mean, I remember this from raising our Series A in October of 2021. Like the narrative is essentially like
Good
there's gonna.
timing.
I
Oh
know.
my goodness, that was good timing on you, Pete.
Better lucky than smart.
Right.
The so the thing that when we were going out to the market, we were saying like, look, one of the things that happens in revenue is there's always a new category of thing that's coming out, right? Whether and then eventually it becomes a must-have, whether it's like e-sign, back in the day, it's like it was this new widget. Oh, like e-sign, what? And now of course you're like, man, if you don't have e-sign, like what the hell are you doing, right?
Right.
Like it'd be you'd be nuts. And so it's like that sales engagement forecasting software, call recording software, intent data. There's always going to be a new thing, right? Like our claim is that data-driven sales management, like purpose-made analytics for managing reps by metric, is something that deserves its own
Yep.
category. But like, there's always going to be something new. There's always going to be something new, and so it's not possible for a single vendor to develop all those things, which is why you have these ecosystems. And so I think that's like, if you think about the things, I mean, this is a very intentional product strategy on you guys' part, unsurprisingly. The gates to staying with customers as they got larger and larger
That's
was
right.
customization, automation, all those sort of things, that like all the nuts and bolts, and then all the ancillary solutions, and both of those are now. So it's unsurprising to me that you guys continue to have customers that stick with you through the hundreds of sellers. One thing that has changed recently that isn't really like, it's not like an additional solution, and this is like, I was actually on a call with Gartner about this the other day, um, because we've invested a bunch in generative AI and large
Yeah.
language models. But what's interesting about it is it's not like a widget that sits on the side. It's not a solution or a product. It actually kind of like it goes across everything, which is a little kind of like perplexing,
Yep.
and kind of interesting for like large organizations like yourself that have lots and lots and lots of surface area in the product. I mean, obviously, like, we're a much smaller organization, but we have a non-trivial product ourselves, and
Totally.
we're layering AI across all of it. And so what I thought would be nice is to kind of talk, because I know that like,
Yeah.
Dharmesh has been, on LinkedIn. You're on LinkedIn talking about all the crazy AI stuff that HubSpot has been doing. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about that with our audience.
Yeah, and I actually will go to what you said, which is a profound realization, and most people hopefully got that, which is AI is not one technology
No.
tool, something like, I don't know, call summarization, or one thing that sits in this corner.
Yeah.
it is really going to power your entire customer journey.
Yeah.
And it's really going to assist humans. We believe that it's disruptive, but we also believe that it's going to guide, all sellers, all marketers, and all service people to do their job much more in a relevant and intelligent manner than replace humans. That's kind of our viewpoint. And I'll say that maybe a couple reasons why I'm really excited about the disruptive nature of AI. And I obviously started my engineering career as we were just beginning to go from on-premise to cloud, and that was a big disruption. And generative AI feels that way, and it especially
Yes.
feels that way for us at HubSpot for a couple of reasons. The first one is we talked about our segment of customers that we serve. It's
Yep.
typically companies with 1 to 2,000 employees. These are small businesses, mid market companies. And these customers don't have an LLM expert, they don't have an AI expert. There's nobody sitting with a developer capacity in the back that's just trying to play with this. And so, our job for 17 years, and will continue for the next few decades, is we want to take powerful technology and democratize that for the small and medium businesses that we support. And so I think it has exceptionally big relevance for the market that we support, because our customers
Yep.
are always trying to do less, but at the same time they don't want to spend like hundreds of thousands of dollars doing a project on an AI roadmap. They just want solutions that are going to work. The second thing is exactly what you said, which is we
Mhm.
believe that we're going to be in this era of guided and assisted marketing, selling, and servicing, right? What that
Yep.
means is that a marketeer's job is just going to get much easier in terms of a few things like content generation, but it's going to get much harder in terms of cutting through the noise in
Mhm.
reaching your customers. The same thing with a salesperson. I mean, no matter how much we try, salespeople, we're trying to always optimize how much time are you in front of customers versus how much time are you doing administrative tasks, training, data cleansing, prospecting, all these other things that you do. I think for at least the 20 years that I've been, in CRM, it has been about optimizing the time sales spends in front of customers. And guess what?
Yes.
I think AI has the ability and the promise to improve productivity in the right way, not
Yeah.
just by spamming your customers with a lot of emails, but by providing more powerful insights that are very specific to that customer, so you can drive a much better conversation, and that
Yep.
is much more meaningful and that drives customer connection. So that's our belief. And I think that you mentioned this. We launched very quickly in March a couple of features. One
Yeah. A
was
couple
content
things.
assistant and chat spot, and it's just early stages. We have probably a whole set of new features and new enhancements in the works, which is all in the theme of AI powered customer journey that's going to come up. And what we are watching and really iterating on is getting things into the hands of customers, getting
Yep.
feedback on what is just going to be table stakes and what is
Yep.
going to be differentiated. And then how do we learn very iteratively so that the value that we can offer back to our customers is outsized based on the learnings that we have in a quick fashion. So pretty exciting days, Pete.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that I think the thing that you mentioned regarding AI helping people do a better job of their peopling, right? Like
Yes.
doing I think that's exactly right. Like we see that with our us insofar it's kind of crazy to see how rapidly things are moving, because we've layered an LLM driven synthesis and kind of sales coaching recommendation functionality that we call Sales Coach
Awesome.
across our product. And but the idea there, of course, is that oftentimes what managers struggle with, Atrium's big project over the last few years is how do we simplify and how do we simplify management by metric such that non-analytical, non-engineered turned sales managers can who don't necessarily have an analytical bent can manage by metric, and we've been successful at that with our hundreds of customers. But frequently what we heard from folks was, hey, thank you for alerting me to the fact
Yes.
that this this rep has an untouched opportunities
Yes.
problem. That's fantastic. And I didn't have to paw through a bunch of dashboards to figure that out. What do I do about that now?
Yeah.
And so now what we can do is we can provide to the manager AI driven recommendations. Say, okay, well, it seems like you have a situation with this rep where he's got a bunch of untouched ops, he's got a bunch of stuck opportunities, and he has way more opportunities than everybody else.
Yep.
It seems like he might be overloaded with respect to his opportunities. Here's some recommendations. Maybe schedule some time you guys can go through and clean that out, kind of
Yep.
like, because there's probably some BS in there. And then secondarily, maybe it seems we need to do some calendar management with this rep, because it seems like he can't do that on his own. And so essentially what's happening there is like now a manager is managing rather
Yep.
than having to paw through these things. So I think that AI in general is going to be helpful in that regard. And I guess, as you kind of noted, you can't share anything with us around this stuff kind of coming down the pike right now. But I think probably the best way for people to pay attention to that is to just follow you on LinkedIn, and that way that
Absolutely.
I'm sure
Follow
that
me on LinkedIn, follow Dharmesh on LinkedIn, follow HubSpot's blog, and then any of you sales marketing folks out there, check out Inbound. That's our biggest conference that happens in the first week of September. And yeah, we're going to be talking about this little thing called AI. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Yamini, this is super fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time to kind of share with everybody kind of like your journey and like HubSpot's journey. As I remember remarking to my co-founder when you went over there, and then when you were promoted to CEO, I was like, man, that is a masterstroke to have a sales operations, sales strategy person running the organization, because like HubSpot's future is, if HubSpot's future is larger and larger and larger sales organization, then that means, being hand in glove with the revenue operations function and making sure that, that HubSpot fits their needs. And it's absolutely fantastic to see like all the work that you guys have been doing around making the solution, the entire platform more enterprise ready, making the ecosystem better,
absolutely.
bigger and bigger and bigger, and now of course all the AI stuff. So appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us. And for folks who are joining us, please stick around for the next session here at the Modern Sales Camp.
Thank you.
Camp Modern Sales. Yamini, and I'll see you around. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you are a modern sales pro, you are also a data geek and a sales geek. And I wish you the very best in your career journeys. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.